Okay, well, hello everyone. I tell you how crazy and fast we're moving, how crazy the schedule is. So I'm going to go over the homework review, the test review that you had for homework. But if we were in class, like back in the old days, um, I wouldn't have to make this video. Because everybody would be in the classroom. And so in the past, I would just go over the test review. But now I have to make videos in addition to going over the work with you. And today's Saturday, so I would not have had to do that before. And then tomorrow, I got to make a video for the next lesson that the B students will see. So if you're feeling stressed and overwhelmed, I am like twice as stressed and twice as overwhelmed than you are. Okay, so crazy, crazy, crazy. So, anyway, I am going to go over the homework here and then the test review and look at this before your test, so it should help you. All right, so here we go. So, number two. That you had for homework, given the domain, give the domain and range. So number two, the domain was 0, 1, and 2, and the range was -2, -1, 0, 1, and 2. That would not be a function because it would fail the vertical line test, right? But it didn't ask that. Number three, the domain was 2000, 2001, 2002, 2003, and then the range was 539, 565, 580, and $6.03. And again, everything is in ascending order, and I don't include duplicates, or I don't include same numbers twice if I had them. Number four, so is that a function? Yes. So Jan only has one math score, ditto for Helen. Right? Number five, from car models to Jeep to car colors? No. Okay, a vehicle, a model can be many colors, like a Jeep can be black, red, and blue, so that would be no. Number six, is that a function? No. If I draw a vertical line, it would intersect y in two places. So like -1 and -2, and then -1 and 1. Number seven, is that a function? Yes. Okay, even though I draw a vertical line, 0 is not included in the line above because it's open. All right, and then number eight, that fails the vertical line test, so it's not a function. 2 points, 2 and -2 would be a point, and 2 and 2. 1x goes to 2y's. Number five, you were to evaluate that graph for the given values of 0, 1.5, and -4. So when x is 0, you get y is 1. When x is 1.5, you get about 4. And then when x is -4, you get 4. Okay, number 21, you had to write an equation. So the fines for speeding in a school zone are $160 plus $4 for every mile per hour over the speed limit. So write a function to represent speeding fines. So I chose D for okay, so I chose D and then M as for miles. So dollars, I chose D for like dollars you spent. I guess I could have chosen something else from S, but I chose D, represents dollars you spent. Okay, so D of M. So the amount of money you have to pay is a function of the number of miles per hour over the speed limit. And so you have to pay $160 plus $4 for every mile over the speed limit. So that's 4M. And then if you drive 8 miles over the speed limit, okay, you'll pay $192. So what does it represent? Well, it represents the amount of money a motorist would pay if they drive 8 miles over the speed limit. Number 22, in order to scuba dive safely, divers must be aware that the water pressure in the ocean is a function of depth. So I said P is a function of D, P for pressure and D for depth. The water pressure increases by 0.44 pounds per square inch for each foot of depth. The pressure at the surface is 14.7, so my function P of D is equal to 14.7, and then it increases 0.445 for every foot of depth. Okay, and so when the depth is 50, you get 36.95. So that represents the water pressure at a depth of 50 feet. All right, and next one here. So you have a locksmith charges $25 to make a house call and $15 for each lot. So I could say let X equals number of locks, and maybe I should do that. X equals number of locks. Okay, so Y is equal to 25 plus 15X for the first locksmith. And then for the second locksmith, it charges $10 to make a house call and $20 for each lock. So Y is equal to 10 plus 20X. So again, easiest substitution problem you ever have. Set Y is equal to Y. And you get 3. 3 is the number of locks. And so the cost will be 70. It will be the same for both locksmiths when you have 3 locks. All right, the next one here, and I just worked through these. You guys can look at the work. So for number 15, you should have 1 and 3. Number 16, and again, I did work through that there. And then number 16, you should have 6 and 5. I worked through that one. Number 19, you should have 4 and 5. Number 20, 22, 2 and 1. Right? Number 23, you have a word problem. You have one on your test. A popular mixture of potpourri includes pine needles and lavender. If pine needles cost $1.50 per ounce and lavender costs $4 per ounce, how much of each ingredient should be mixed to make 80 ounces of the potpourri that is worth $200? So I did the table. So what are you looking for? You're looking for the amount of ounces of potpourri, of pine needles and lavender to make. So there I say let X is equal to the ounces of pine needle and Y is equal to the ounces of lavender, and I make my organization table. So that's for X and Y. And I go back up to the problem there. And if pine needles cost $1.50 per ounce and lavender, so I know that pine needles cost $1.50 per ounce for every ounce of pine needles they make. The cost would be $1.50, and for every ounce of lavender they make, it would be 4. So cost, and they want the total cost to be $200. Okay, and then of course we need to make ounces of each. Okay, so the number of ounces of pine needles plus a number of ounces of lavender has to equal 80, or X plus Y equals 80. The number of, all right, so the coefficient for X and Y there is 1. So there's my 2 equations. Okay, X plus Y equals 80. The number of ounces of pine needle plus the number of ounces of lavender has to equal 80 ounces. They want a total of 80 ounces. And then for every ounce of lavender they make, and the cost would be $1.50, and every ounce, or pine needles they make will be $1.50, and every ounce of lavender they make will be $4. And there I use substitution. You could have used elimination. You can go through the work, but I got 48 ounces of pine needles, X, and then 32 ounces of lavender. Next one, solve a system of equations. So again, you have to write these in slope-intercept form. And you see what 24 looks like, and then 25. Again, you have to write in slope-intercept form. And that's what you should have. That should be the picture. Remember, if you do have to divide or multiply an inequality by negative, you have to switch it. I did not have to do that, although in 25 some students may be tempted to switch the inequality, and that would be wrong. all you're doing is adding 3x. You're not multiplying or dividing by a negative. And then number 29. So you had to graph the feasible region. So you see it there. Okay, x has to be greater than or equal to 0. Y has to be greater than or equal to 0. And then I graph the other equations. All right, you have to be below the line y is equal to 3x plus 1. And you have to be below the line negative 3/4 x plus 6. So I find my corner points. Two of them are easy to identify, the origin 0, 0 and 0, 1. Okay, but if there's ever a need to solve a system of equations when you're doing this, this is the case, because you could graph these and you will still not get the right. You could graph these correctly and you will still not get the right answer, unless if you do, you're lucky. Anyway, here I need to find the intersection. You see, I have the point 4/3 and 5. But how do I get that? I mean, if you graph this on graph paper, you're not going to find that. You may see the 5, but you certainly won't see the 4/3. You're just not going to see it. So here, all I know is this is the intersection of two lines. It's the intersection of the line y is equal to 3x plus 1 and y is equal to negative 3/4 x plus 6. So I said y equal to y. Okay, add 3/4 x to both sides, subtract 1 from both sides, and you get 3/4 x equals 5. Or 3 times 4 is 12, plus 3 is 15, 15/4 equals 5. Multiply by the reciprocal of 15 over 4, which is 4 over 15. And then you cancel out, or you get x is equal to 4/3. Now, even if you graph that, you're not going to get that on graph paper. You actually have to do this. You actually have to, you have to solve the system of equations. And then if I substitute 4/3 for x until y is equal to 3x plus 1, I get y is equal to 5. So there, 4/3 and 5. And then for the other point, I guess you may be able to get the point from the graph from that, but I just verified. So all I know, 8, 0, that's the intersection of two lines, y is equal to 0, and y is equal to negative 3/4 x plus 6. I set them to equal to each other, and I get 8 equals x. X equals 8. So I know that's the point 8, 0. All right, and then you had to, number 33, you had to evaluate, given your objective function, you want to maximize it, so you just substitute in the corner points into that equation to find the largest value, and that happens at 4/3 and 5. Now again, think about this. You would not have found 4/3 on a graph paper, right? And then part of the problem would require you to find the maximum. Well, if you didn't solve using a system of equations, then you're not going to get finding a maximum right neither. So you'll be losing points. So I guess word of advice, solve a system of equations. That's why we teach you guys to do it. Okay, so that's the test review. You'll have problems very similar to what you had on the test review.